Hello, 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 everyone. And you are welcome to another episode of my Take Chat Show. This is a chat show that me and my girlfriends is a place where we come together and we just talk about, different things, conversations. That's always very enlightening, very interesting. But it's all about relationships. Before I go further, let me have everyone say a quick hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hello, everyone.
Fantastic. And I do notice for some reason I see that our names weren't popping up. So please feel free to, as we go through it. I know we might have one or two people who might be new in joining us for the first time. But I'm Adenyke. I have Tosin Lola Tutu with me, but trust me, you'll get to hear more about and know more about them as we go along. My Take is a forum where we ladies hang out, we unwind, and we chat about things that are happening around us, while we, lend our voices to some of the social issues today. This is supposed to be a place where we're free, where we are able to, just be ourselves, but at the same time, we have a goal to cultivate a culture of love and compassion, but also speaking truth to the topics and being very candid about the things we talk about. Now, if you've been following us in this season, this is season 2, you will know that we've been doing every month, we've been having something called the Debunking series. The Debunking series is when we think about certain things that people tend to either hold as myth or as facts, or tends to play out in a particular way or impact the way we think in one way or the other. So today we will be debunking some myths. We've had some great debunking of myths. Today's one is quite interesting. We're going to be debunking sex myth. Ooh la la, do I hear somebody say? Yes, we are. We're going to go there. Right, Tosi. Now, let's put a disclaimer for all of us here. We ain't no sex therapists, right, ladies? But yeah, thank God, we've had a couple of years under our belt as married women, and I'm sure we've all had some very interesting experiences in that area. So we will have one or two things that we need to say, but also we really want to just hear everyone's thoughts. One of the things we believe very strongly is that on My Take, we always want to hear our audience and your take. So I believe the Bible has a lot to say about sex. I believe the Bible is one place that tells us or gives us the background actually into sex. So if we're going to really address from our perspective, we would really reflect on certain values that guides and shapes what we think. In particular, one scripture that I know that, has been used in varying degrees is in Hebrews chapter 13, verse 4. That says marriage should be honored by everyone. I like this translation. And every marriage should be kept pure between husband and wife. It says, then there's a part that says God will judge guilty those who commit sexual sins and adultery. The point really is that sex is very important to God. He created it. He thought about it and he implemented it as something to bind a man and a woman together in the institution of marriage. So it's quite interesting. And so that's why I feel we can't really have a show like this without really thinking about what he thinks about it as well. So you might see that infused. Feel free to agree, feel free to disagree. Just pop it in the comments. Let's hear what you think and would love to have a conversation about this. So let me start off by saying on this issue, almost everyone on today's call, literally everyone here has been in counseling, we've either been marriage mentors or we've been marriage counselors in one way or the other. And we tend to come up when we have these sort of issues where we hear the word, anything that two married people do in their bedroom is nobody's business. Anything goes. Everything should be okay. Is that true? So is this really the case? Is that how it should be? So let's start off with this, and I think I'm going to throw it at Tutu. True or false? Married couples are free to do anything they wish in the privacy of their bedroom, as long as they mutually agree to it, whether it's anal sex, S&M, any form of, enhancement to improve the pleasure, pornography, whatever it takes. If it's between the husband and his wife in their own bedroom, however they want to do it, in whatsoever way, it should be nobody's business and it is approved because they are married. Do you agree with this, Tutu?
I totally disagree.
Oh,
False, false, false.
okay.
you know, and I like the way you started off by referring to Hebrews 13:4. It was actually a scripture I was going to mention as I talk. That marriage is honorable, marriage is sanctified, and first, marriage is a gift. Marriage is a gift from God, and He gave us this gift. One of the reasons He gave this gift is for it to be enjoyed. So anything that brings disrespect, pain, agony, to this, or anyone feeling belittled, is certainly not the plan of God. So I'll take an example of the sadism, the S&M, sadism, masochism. I mean, what do this really mean? So loosely defined, sadism is when one person gets turned on by inflicting pain on another. Masochism is when someone now we're talking about sex, when someone gets turned on by pain being inflicted on them, by them being humiliated, by them being, demeaned. And, how can this even be normal? Like, the only way you can derive pleasure is when you either inflict pain or when pain is inflicted on you. This is certainly not healthy, even looking at your health. And while I'm not a doctor or a clinical psychologist, but generally this also fall into sexual disorders. So that tells me that it cannot be normal, because people get treated for this as sexual disorder. And then when you bring pornography into your marriage, you're bringing in third parties. And then so where do we stop? And at some point, some people get into swinging, bringing other people into their marriage. They graduate from pornography. They actually swing among their friends or strangers. So this is not the fact that you're free to do anything. Technically, you're not free to do everything you want to do, because the Bible also talks about it in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 23 or 26, I believe, where it says, all things are lawful, but not all things are expedient. So just because, you think you have the right to do everything, it doesn't mean you should do it. And even looking at our society, we live in a free society, but at the same time, we cannot do just whatever we feel like. So I think this principle also applies in our sex life. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to add something before you go on. There was a lady that I gave a ride many, many years ago, and we were coming from a conference about, sex, and so she was sharing her thoughts that whatever your husband wants, you should do. And she, basically shared with me that her husband, she didn't want anal sex, but sorry for using that, but here we are on this show for sex. But her husband wanted anal sex. She didn't want it, but he did it. And, and she gave him everything he wanted. Sadly, she passed away. And one thing her daughter told me while the daughter was grieving and talking, the daughter said she lost all sense of her bowels, and her, the poop was coming out and all of that. And it was funny because Holy Spirit reminded me that, remember the conversation you had with her. So part of her anus let go in her final days. So we don't know this sexual, like, again, I'm not, like Tutu said, I'm not a health professional or whatever, but I just had to link what the daughter told me to what the mom told me. You understand what I'm saying? That these things do have health implications when you think you can engage in certain things that God did not allow. And then I remember being in another conference where a doctor said, he mentioned that a lot of all the nerve endings are in the anus. So when people don't know how sensitive the anus is, that's the reason why it's only supposed to push out and not receive. So the doctor was explaining certain things and health issues that a lot of people he sees in the in the hospital that come, that he knows that engage such an act and the medical implications of it. So when we think that we are allowed to do certain things, God built our bodies not to do certain things, but we try to change the configuration, we try to change the dynamic, and then we'll deal with the consequences. So I just wanted to add that.
Okay. Thank you so much. Wow. It's like Tutu took us into the actual theoretical and Tosin actually very interesting real life situations that you've given. I see a comment here from a player that says, what about those who get turned on by getting inflicted by pain? By pain being inflicted on them. Sorry. And I think that's a bit of the category that Tutu was, talking about. Lola, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this. Is this, is this a situation where I hear what you guys, ladies, are saying. If there is pleasure, okay, let's say the anal sex is right, but let's say some people feel that, role playing. So the inflicting of pain is bringing them some form of pleasure because they are role playing, a doctor and a nurse and someone being chained up and, being, whipped and all of those things. Again, I just want to bring the fact that is there a wider issue here? And I'm even still sitting down, I'm still on the level of two of them thinking they agree. Because I want to really question that to a certain extent as well, and I'd like to get your thought. But is there a scenario here where we need to start to say, is there also, if we look at it from maybe a Christian perspective, but in general, is there an issue with people's minds? Is this something that, I don't know, could be a carryover from past sexual relationships? Could it be because at times for me, hands up, at times I wonder, do people who have been maybe because they were sexually active before they got married to their partner, they may have experimented with different things and then they bring it into their marriage and the other party may think, let me not be too prude, let me try something, and then they get involved in doing something that they've told themselves is okay. Can two consenting Christians actually feel that that's okay? And again, not judging, but just thoughts here. Happy to hear your thoughts, Lloyd.
Well, I'm of the mindset to each their own, right? I'm like, I don't get in people's bedrooms, let them do it and go and explain to their maker, when the time comes, how they're spending their time and what they're doing with it. But I do agree that there has to be mutual consent. The problem with that a lot of times, as you've pointed out, is that is there really, mutual consent? We don't really know if people are truly 100%. People might be thinking of the sake of their marriage, want to keep their relationship, and become accepting, not because it's something that they naturally want to do, but because they feel like that may be the only way to keep their marriage going or to not lose their relationship. The other thing, too, that I wanted to say is that, there's a reason why God designed this thing to be specifically introduced and maintained through marriage, right? But unfortunately, we live in a broken world and things are not 1 + 1 as God designed it. So I feel like for a lot of people, for a majority of the people, their first introduction to sex defines how they carry on throughout their lives with sex. So, many, many, many people were introduced at a young age through means that it wasn't designed to be introduced at, whether it's through porn, whether it's through just being around people that, are just exposure. And so their first exposure to that was not the way it was designed. And that dictates how people think about and frame and carry on. It's a complicated thing. And, I really do believe that people need to, when it comes to experimenting and doing all these things and what you believe you like, that you should really have that conversation with your spouse and have that conversation with yourself and determine what is comfortable for you and what doesn't. But that mutually consenting is important in a relationship, with the caveat that, that's a tricky thing because people mutually consent to things that they don't necessarily want or agree with, but have their own reasons for doing. So it's a slippery slope.
I just wanted to add also that, in everything we do, boundaries are just very important. And also people just need to have some rule of thumb. Like initially, Nika mentioned, role playing. Of course, there's some healthy role plays in our sex life that is totally acceptable. Nika gave an example of maybe doctor, nurse, or whatever. I mean, couples can role play if they want, but within boundaries. And also, just know that whatever you do that demeans your spouse, that causes pain to your spouse, that may affect their health, I think those are boundaries that we should keep in mind.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I wanted to say that, boundaries. God is, trust me, I know that, we want to go wild, and you say both spouses agree to do certain things. I mean, I think I heard this story from a friend about, I trust me for giving you examples or stories or whatever.
Please give us.
Her uncle and the wife both agreed to introduce porn to their marriage. It was a mutual agreement, but she ended up coming home and finding out that he would get off on watching porn, and he didn't need her anymore. So what I'm saying is that if you introduce these things, and even if you mutually agree, you don't set boundaries on certain things, the devil knows how to take a mile. When you give him one little, hold, he doesn't stop it where you tell him to stay. You can't tell the devil stay here once you introduce something. And that is how he didn't need his wife anymore. Is that what God intended for that marriage? No. So boundaries is huge. When you are trying to introduce something, you have to make sure it does not take from the two of you, that because he will no longer desire you, he will be desiring those things. She will no longer desire you, she'll be desiring those things. You have to be very careful. You got to set the four walls around your sexual relationship. It is very important, because when you think you want to enhance, and you think that the only way to enhance is by going outside the box that God has created for you, trust me when I say the devil knows how to run a mile.
Thank you. I mean, you guys have touched on so many things, and I'm loving the feedback from our viewers. There's a lot of agreement in terms of this area can easily become a very slippery slope. And because it's a slippery slope, we need to think about boundaries. And, Lola made a phenomenal point about, there's a wider conversation around this. There's really a wider conversation around the fact that, yes, we live in a broken world, but we need to be so careful of the first exposure to what sex is. There's a way in which, if people's minds are not renewed in that area, or people, deal with other issues like low self-esteem, physical challenges, these things tend to play into their minds and what they feel is acceptable. So we talked about, we really have to think about our mindset. And I think that's why, the Bible tells us to ensure that we renew our minds. We need to renew our minds when it comes to sex. We need to renew our minds when it comes to intimacy. And if I can add one thing before we jump into the next minute, and thank you so much. Porn is the third party. Okay, so Olumide says that define the box for the listeners. So I guess maybe that means the.
Can I jump in here?
Yes, please.
What I believe is a box is the Bible, and I don't know the exact verse, but it says whatever is lawful, whatever is somebody help me here.
Whatever is good, pure, whatever is kind, whatever is honest, whatever is of a good report, if there be any virtue, think upon this thing, sort of thing.
That is what I believe. For me, the box is. When I measure what I'm doing sexually to this yardsticks of God, and I feel comfortable in my spirit, because the spirit guides us in all truth, right? When I feel comfortable in my spirit about this matter, that is my box. So that's what I believe.
Thank you so much. And I think that's a brilliant point that Olu raised, and Tosin, to your point, because I was about to come there, that when we talk about the point that was made about, is there really consent? I think one of the beauties of sexual intimacy is the intimacy of the body, intimacy of the soul, and intimacy of the spirit. I feel it's important that couples, even after sexual activity, you get feedback and you can give yourselves honest feedback to know, was that pleasing to you? But the problem is, have we created the room for people to be very honest? It's such a sensitive area, and that's why we're being very, very careful as to, we really can't legislate. It's not an area legislate. It's one of those heart areas, and nobody can really see the heart except God. But there are things that we feel we need to draw around this, which is really, it's supposed to be a mutually beneficial, pleasurable act for a married couple. And you shouldn't be afraid to tell your spouse. If you cannot ask your spouse, does this genuinely bring you pleasure? Would you prefer we don't do this? And you're not open, then you know that you've allowed other boundaries to be there. Let me quickly ask you something. We are fans of one or two, social media accounts where we hear all sorts of very interesting stories. I am also very aware of a situation where a couple, true story, couple, wanted to go out. It was couples night. And, they had gone out to dinner. About 4 or 5 couples had gone out. And they just decided, it's late. We don't go home yet. What do we do? And there was a suggestion to go to a strip club. And almost all the guys, if I remember the story clearly, were pretty much okay with it. 1 or 2 of the wives were like, oh, not a big deal. Let's just hang out. Some others were like, what's wrong with you guys? I don't know about that. But, initially it was a case of let's just all have fun. And they go in there and they're in a strip club. But at some point, a couple of the wives were very uncomfortable with what they were seeing and they made a lot of fuss and everybody left. Some people feel that, what's wrong with you as a woman? Why are you being prude? Why are you not enjoying it? What's the big deal? I know we've talked about it from a third party, but let's leave the bedroom for a while. Are there even things that in this day and age, again, in this issue of boundaries, the jury is out, are some things just for the fun of it? Or are just some things plain dangerous and they are setting a precedent that has other impacts in marriages? I don't know what you think, but I just wanted to add to this that I'm finding more and more women say, not a big deal, not a big deal, not a big deal, because they've opened the Pandora's box that they don't know how to shut. I remember talking to my husband about it. My husband said, look, if your husband says, do you mind going to a strip club? And you want to say yes, ask him that, yeah, sure, let's go to a male strip club. And here's his response. I was laughing that day. He said, no, that's what you should do. Offer to go to a male strip club and see if he's willing to still go to a strip club that night. I was like, So is this more, I don't know what you guys think, audience, what you guys think, but I just feel that it goes back to the consent. Is this really a mutually open space for everybody?
Some people should not ask their spouses if they want to go to a male strip club. You might not like the answer to that.
I know. Okay, so that brings me to the next one. True or false? Men are supposed to initiate sex because they have a higher sex drive. This is one that I think married men and married women, let's talk about this now. And please bear with us. The nature of our show, we are giving scenarios around marriage just because that's what our show is about. So for us, when we think about sex, when we talk about sex and intimacy, sexual intimacy, we're talking about it from a marriage perspective. So this is something that I feel I've heard this in counseling. I've heard people say, Adenyke, she's never interested. She's always just, and then I would say, I hear stuff, well, you're not this, you're not making it this. And guys are like, if I don't ask for it, you don't give it. Yes, maybe when you give it, yes, it's nice. But why can't you initiate it? Things are boring. I would like to be the one being chased. I would like you to pinch my bum, whatever the case may be, chase me down into the room, lock me down, sort of thing. And the woman is like, I don't need it that bad. So is this a truth? Is it a myth? Are men really, are they supposed to initiate sex? False. I hear from Dooney saying false. I hear from Okwe saying false. Okay, the men are giving us their take. I love it. Ladies, Tosin, what do you think?
I it's not fair. I get it. I'll admit it's not fair for us to expect the men to always do it just because they generally, are the one with the higher sex drive. They want to be chased sometimes. They want to feel that we desire them, we want to come on them, we want to do stuff. So for me, I've been coming out of my box. I mean, and then anytime I come out of my box, I'm like, check for me, write it down. I came out of my box for you, okay? So he doesn't, draw this amnesia that I didn't do anything. So yeah, it's not fair on the men. So it is a myth. It should be a myth, ladies.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And I also think it's a myth for that, men have the higher sex drive. There are women that have a very high sex drive as well. And of course, I agree that, women should also reach out and ask for sex. It's a great turn on for a man, where his wife is desiring him. So even, and I'll say to women, even when you don't really think you desire it, just make the effort and you make the move. It does make a big difference when a woman goes to her husband and lets him know, I want you.
Can the sisters on the panel share tips for women? Because we know we're talking now marriage, Christian marriage. Many women, not all, but many women go into Christian marriages unexposed, like not having had this done, haven't had sex previously, with as a virgin or very novice. They might feel shy to approach, or they might feel like, oh, if they do it, their husband might think, I thought you were, whatever was all this. Let's be real. So what are ways that that are acceptable ways or appreciated ways where women can initiate this who may not otherwise have the confidence to do so? I'm just throwing that out there. But I agree that, it shouldn't be just men.
I mean, I'll give a personal example. Unfortunately, this is not something I do regularly. I wish, maybe after this show, I should actually do it some more. But there was a time that my husband, was coming home. We were talking on the phone and, I said, oh, please, when you get to so and so place, let me know, blah, blah, blah. And, he called me. So what I did, I changed into a red lingerie and, wore red high-heeled shoes. And I stood by the garage door. So as soon as he opened the garage, of course, the children were in their room. So as soon as he opened the garage and came into the house, there I was standing in all my glory. I mean, he just dropped everything he was carrying and, the rest is history. And he refers to it. He refers to it a lot, which means it was something he enjoyed. It's something, that should happen, more regularly. So for women, just try, even if it's not your natural, just try. Some women like me, may be wearing long gowns around the house because it's very comfortable. But sometimes get into your lingerie or just go nude in the bedroom, sit on the bed, your legs wide open, like you really don't care. And, call him from downstairs, if he's downstairs or wherever, like, can you please quickly come? And the guy comes into the room and he sees you ready for him. If you have pole beds, do something, dance for him, play music, set the mood. So there's so many things. And I personally believe that Christians should enjoy the best sex ever because it's a gift from God. And, your husband, you own each other's bodies. The Bible talks about being naked and not ashamed. So just try all kinds of, things again within boundaries and, take it from there. And we all have the Holy Spirit as a guide. He's our teacher. He does not only teach us how to pray, he also teaches us how to enjoy sex because sex is a form of worship to God.
Thanks, Titu. I wanted to add this phrase that they all, people know. And bear with me, Christian listeners. It says, a man wants a lady in the streets and a freak in the sheets. So you need to become inhibited or whatever English you want to do. I can neither affirm or deny, but just wake him up in the middle of the night. He's sleeping, and just do what you need to do. Wake him up the way he wakes you up. Wake him up, surprise him. Be creative.
Wow, wow. No, ladies, I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying how you're keeping it real. I'm only 7 years old, but my ears are tingling. I'm trying to I'm joking. This is quite interesting. This is quite, I think, I like what they said. It doesn't even have to be elaborate. Keep it simple. But the truth of the matter is we're right. False, false, false. We're all supposed to make this fun, make this interesting, make it spontaneous, But then that brings me to another, speaking of being spontaneous, one of our other myths, which says most people feel, myth, true or false? Sex in marriage is only fun if spontaneous, not scheduled. And I'll take that as that's the first part. And the second part is your spouse should know everything you like in bed. So I was going to make a comment, but I want us to really talk about this. First of all, the first part, true or false? Sex is also only interesting, fun when it's spontaneous. One of the things I learned as one goes into from the early stages of, just got married and we could barely keep our hands off each other and all of that good stuff. But by the time the first child came, second child came, you went through those sleepless nights, tired, nappy, changing, off to work, demanding job, picking up daycare, who's making dinner. Some things in life become so monotonous that, that spontaneous aspect of, our sex lives could become quite mundane. But one of the things I found out is that thinking that because it's not spontaneous, it's not fun, was actually part of the problem. So, to give a very brilliant, based on the last, just a brilliant example of something spontaneous that was done. But I think there are also seasons where you need to just schedule it. Wednesday, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, 2:00. I happen to be at home during that time, and then 7:00, and it's in the calendar. It doesn't sound very much like fun, but sometimes that's what you need to do to get through a particular season, to make sure that you're building your intimacy, because it's very important. But at the same time, you're also not letting life overwhelm you. I don't know what you guys think, but I do think that, we shouldn't just wait for it to be spontaneous. Sometimes as women, we want to feel. And for most men, they don't need to feel anything. They just see something and boom, they go from 0 to 200, and that feeling phase and wanting everything to be right sometimes doesn't work. So being able to schedule in the busy seasons of life, I think is another thing that we need to do. So that's why I would say, sex in marriage is only fun if spontaneous. I would say that's false. I'm happy to hear what you guys think.
I agree that that's false. It depends on the individual, but I do agree that it is false, and it can actually be quite the opposite. It can be very fun. And you've touched upon it that, as we mature in relationship, right? As hopefully your career is advancing, you're having families, you're getting involved in other areas of life, maybe ministry or things like that. Things will take your time if you allow it, and you have to be intentional with it, or it will be sapped up, it will be sapped away. And so I recommend it, and it doesn't have to be boring. It's actually a chance for you to it's like, if the word scheduled is the one that is, because when you hear scheduled, you think suit and tie. If scheduled is the word that is bothering you, just think of it as like planned us time. You're being deliberate, you're being intentional of setting time apart every week, every day, something to just focus on your spouse. And, you can make it fun. You can plan. It's a avenue for you to be creative. I can have a tendency to be a workaholic. If you leave me, I can be on my laptop till 2, 3, 4 in the morning. I send you guys see, I send text to you at 3 in the morning, and I'm sure you're wondering, okay, and my husband is a morning person. And so if you leave me, I can go like a long time, but you have to be intentional. That's when I know, okay, I have to put my laptop away. This is our day. I have to, wrap things up early, make dinner early, let free up the time, tell the kids where to go, so that can be thing, and you can make it fun. So
I like that. I like that. So you take, okay, go on, Tosin.
I mean, like what Faye said, scheduling doesn't work for my.
Look at that.
I agree. I agree that some people need scheduling for seasons. For me, the spontaneity just shoots the hormones and the pheromones or whatever you may call it. For me, if I know it's coming, then okay, I'm like, okay, let's just, let's do the routine. Let's do it. Don't get me wrong. I would experience all, organisms and all that stuff, but still the spontaneity of this matter, you don't see it coming, but then it just hits you, bam. For me, it's like, woo. So I prefer that.
That may not work for everybody that is busy. For people that are busy, days will go by and you don't realize it.
I agree with you.
You can be spontaneous within a schedule.
Okay, Lola, I can set the date. I don't have to set the time.
Yes, you can do it that way.
Or maybe you need to renew your mind in that area.
Yes. when Lola said that and what you said, Tosin, I just had a flashback to a conversation I had with a couple where it was flipped around. It really was. Her husband was such a workaholic that, of course, yes, she knew when he wanted to be, she would make herself available, but she wanted more than he was. He just had his regular, but she really, and I'm not sure if it was that she was that high up, but she was really more of that exciting adventure. She wanted him to always, come at her in a very interesting way, and she felt he was too monotonous, too boring. And maybe we'll be able to touch on that later on. There's a true and false one that I think we can really talk about. So I just wanted to say that, I think that was a situation where the man really liked a scheduled approach because of how work was for him, and part of her concern was the schedule fits him. She wanted to be much more spontaneous, and she wanted a bit more frequency. So I actually thought,
but that's not to say that if you schedule for Tuesday and the spirit moves on Monday, that you tell the person no.
No, you're right. No, I think when the spirit moves, he's never there. That's what's the problem. When the spirit comes upon her, he's not around. And so that was the, I think, and I think it was interesting because it was for the false part. I think for the previous one, when we said before that she was the one who was always much more. And sorry, let me just add this here. I remember she said something to me. She actually said she struggled initially because her husband in the early years of marriage was sort of looking at her funny because he felt it was strange that she wanted sex more than he thought he would want. So that's interesting, right? Honestly, it's some of the things that, people, because this is so sensitive, and initially he was wondering, so is it like you were with a lot of people or you were single? He started asking those sort of questions, and, he didn't mean it in a negative way, but what was coming out was more like he was surprised that his wife had a higher sexual appetite, not intense, maybe not higher, but intense. And so she became uncomfortable and she was trying to hide that sexuality. And it was a struggle for her. And these are things that couples struggle with. And I think maybe I'll take that in our next true or false. But I think somebody wanted to say something.
Yeah. I mean, there's another part to this question about your spouse should know everything you like in bed. Again, that is false, 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 false. And this is where open and honest conversation comes in. I can't speak for the men, but for most women, our bodies change, especially after you've given birth or over the years, your hormones, things change in your body. So for example, if one of the things that used to turn you on is maybe when your husband plays with your breast, all of a sudden, you get irritated when he even comes around that area. So this is where, open communication comes in, just letting your spouse know what you enjoy. And you shouldn't, your spouse is not the Holy Spirit that knows all things. You need to tell your spouse what you like. Put your hand where you want it to be. If you want him to play with your cleats, then put your hand to his cleats. Tell him. And even, men are very, I don't think men shy away from letting their wives know what they want, but women in particular, we cannot continue to, wait for the men to figure out what we like. We need to open our mouths, tell them, train them in what we like and how we like it.
Men also change as they get older, not just women, and not just that. Like even health issues come up, that affect men and women. And so, like Tutu said, the body is changing, the body is evolving. Things that worked before doesn't necessarily work, a year from now or whatnot. So that open communication is regular, is key.
If you ask the younger Tosin, I would have been like, what are you guys talking about? He should know. I mean, just, figure it out. Like, I know to said you're not the Holy Spirit. You are supposed to be the Holy Spirit of my body. Figure it out. But the older Tosin learned over the years, because he'll be like, whatever you want, just let me know. Put your hand here, say something. Let me know if you like this more, blah, blah, blah. Like both ladies said, communication, speak, say what you want. I used to, for my birthdays, sometimes, I used to wait, and then I'll get disappointed. But now, you have to open your mouth to, I want this gift, I want this thing, speak, say what you need. Because sometimes, my husband believes that he's giving me love every day and he's giving me things every day. So when my birthday comes, is a wonderful day, but he doesn't believe that he should, go out because he's doing everything every single day. But I want the fanfare, I want the works, I want everything. So I started talking and he started understanding. So communication is key.
Fantastic. And I think that's a fantastic segue to the next true and false. And thank you so much. I'm loving the engagement. I mean, the audience chat is just on fire. If you're not on YouTube, please feel free to join in. On Facebook, we're live. Share your thoughts. Would like to know your take on this. Just going back to the example I gave before, and I know, this is one area I think Tutu also probably you've spoken a lot around this area. I do see that, sometimes couples, when they just get married, there's something they're looking forward to. They're looking forward to that, wedding night in most cases where, they've practiced abstinence. And okay, I'm going to ask this question, but we have a surprise guest coming up. Thank you. So before I go into it, we have with us, hi.
Oh my, oh my, oh my.
Olumide.
Welcome, Olumide.
Can I say something real quick?
Of course.
Apart from appreciating and thanking you guys for the surprise invite, I just want to know why this show? Why me on this show? All my other friends got the nice ones, and then they have to be this one. Really, really.
Well, we as we were chatting and we're enjoying, listening to you and the rest of the guys going up, we said, you know what? While, the guys are, especially when we heard false, I said, you know what? Let's have one of these men up here. And thanks for always being a good sport. Thanks for joining us today.
Always. I enjoyed the mic take, so, I'm a fan.
Yay! So excited to hear that.
I'm a fan.
So let me ask the next question. I'll let you jump in, and then please feel free to just speak on anything that we've been talking about that you'd like to maybe add your 2 cents to the conversation. Right. Yeah. So I was going to say, the issue of, true or false, most Christian couples don't think they need to see a therapist. Okay, I think we've lost Tolu, so we'll try and see if we can get him back. Most Christians would not consider seeing a sex therapist if they have challenges in that area. And I was about to talk about, couples that, shortly after marriage, they've been looking forward to it. They practice abstinence while dating or courting, and then things don't go as they envisaged. Things don't happen on that wedding night. There's such high expectations. For some, it might be a woman's first time. It could be a guy's first time. They don't know what to expect.
Right.
And
I got cut off. Okay. I've been trying to use my laptop. My laptop is not, I don't know what's happening. So I'm using my phone and my phone just went out. So you will have to start that question from start because I
Okay.
didn't hear anything.
Okay, no
Okay, all right.
problem. So what we said was true or false. Most
Okay.
Christian couples would not consider seeing a sex therapist if they have challenges in that area, in the area of their sexual lives. And we're saying how sometimes these are issues that happen shortly after marriage.
Okay.
Either the husband or the wife are struggling with either their sexuality or with how they're able to please one another or how they're able to engage. And in most cases, people don't actually realize that, just like as you can go to a doctor and have ongoing sessions to manage some form of disability, that most people don't consider actually seeing a sex therapist in that area. And I just wanted to bring that into light in terms of how do we address, how do we break down, how do we debunk some of those. So first of all, from your experience, everyone is open to this, but I'll let Olu have the honors. Do you think this is true or false in your opinion? If you see that statement, do you think that's a true statement?
That most Christians don't seek help. Generally, that's what you're saying.
Yes. Or should I
Yeah.
make it more personal, more
No,
in
no,
our culture?
no, no,
Maybe?
no. No, actually, both culture and in Christian homes, it is true. They generally don't want to get help.
Mm.
And the truth is, it's sad. Let me just put it this way: sad. If you're not willing to do the work yourselves, in terms of, I think it was Tutu or Tutu that was talking about communication consistently. If you're not willing to do the work on that communication, you need to get help. And where that help is going to come from, best way is to, because trust me, and I'm not trying to be funny. If you're not willing to do the communication between yourselves, as far as I'm concerned, you're not hearing from God about your relationship. That's my own conclusion. So you might as well get at least the next best option, which would be therapy. You have someone step in, tell you things. Maybe there might be some things that you might not be aware of that they need to point out to you. I think, and I'm not trying to be funny, a lot of us, I say us, because I don't want to exclude any of us, we have not been educated properly about sex and sex in marriage. And so everybody's coming in, I think it was Lola that said earlier on that everybody comes in with whatever they got outside of marriage as the education for sex, and then they try to introduce it inside of marriage, and it becomes a big problem. That's where you have situations where you're talking about S&M, you're talking about other things going on. There's a purpose for you. I'm not forming innocent here. Before I got married, I'm not forming innocent, but I'm saying there's a purpose for why there's supposed to be sex in marriage, or I said sex in marriage, not before it. Because what is supposed to happen is the man and the woman are supposed to actually discover themselves. They're the ones that now, because then the slate is clean and clear, and they get to decide what's permissible or what's not permissible in the marriage in terms of sex. And
Oh, we lost Olumide, but yes,
Yeah.
I do agree with him, and I am one of the proponents for people seeking help, as seeing sex therapists if they need to. And there's some people that, due to no fault of theirs, it could even be some medical reasons, that they experience pain during sex. That's not pain you're supposed to live with. So you should seek help. And I think there needs to be a lot of education around. When I say education, a lot of, more, counseling in churches, people being encouraged to seek help. There's nothing shameful about it. There are actually licensed Christian therapists out there that can help. So please don't feel ashamed. Seek help. Some people experience dysfunctions, and just please seek help. And I'll let Olumide continue.
no, I think I was basically wrapped up. I think one of the other things is whether we like it or not. I know some of us have already crossed over the bridge, but for those that are about to cross over the bridge or want to cross the bridge, you gotta have honest conversations now. I know a lot of people rush in. One of the conversations should be having should be about sex. Be very frank and honest with each other. Understand where each person stands and where they're coming from, so that you don't get in and then on night two you're finding out you got to put some chains on and some whips are going to be introduced. Some foreign objects are coming in. No, have this honest conversation so you know ahead of time that okay, this I know I can't do, and you can make an honest, what's it called, informed decision
Absolutely, and I think some of the comments from our audience as well is very much so. Whenever we talk about relationships, we always say here on my take, we believe communication is the blood of relationship, just like blood is to the body. That's what communication is to relationships. All relationships, corporate, personal, parenting, friendships, siblings, all of that. It's always about having the right type of communication, and we believe strongly that our sexual lives, like Tutu said, I really like this, meant to be enjoyed, was because there is a spirit, soul, body element to it, and we're supposed to be coming from a place of freedom, and so that's why it's extremely important for us to be able to enjoy that aspect. I'll take the last question so that we can all put chat in, and then we can add anything else to it. And I think it's one of the myths around, just the healthy part, and I think we may have touched on it earlier. So, but when we say it's true or false, some form of sexual activity can affect the health of individuals. And I wanted to bring this from not just the physical health, so Sim talked about some scenarios, but I'd like to ask Olu, what do you think about mental health when it comes to, not putting in the right safeguards? I would love to hear your thoughts as a man, because I know we spoke about this earlier on. We talked about making sure there's consent. We talked about, making sure that both couples mutually agree to it. I don't know if it is frozen. It was so great. I know it was a bit spontaneous. So sometimes the internet can go cuckoo on us, So I'm not sure if Olu can hear what I'm saying. Can you? But I was going to just add, when it comes to men, when it comes to women, when it comes to our mental, physical body health, how do we ensure that we are putting in the right safeguards to protect us health-wise? And I'll let Tosin speak to that first, and then maybe Lola, and then Olu can round us up.
Well, to me, the most important thing is our spirituality, because we are spirit beings living in a physical world. And when your spirit is healthy, your mental follows suit, likewise your body. I mean, to me, I believe, because it's, it says, let thy soul prosper as thy soul prosper. You understand what I'm saying? So to me, it's very important. So when you get into certain things that are not needed in your relationship, the anal sex, the things that affect your health, the more you get insight, the more you seek help, the more you also get spiritual guidance on these matters. It helps guides you in what is needed or not needed in your sexual relationship. Every time I pray for my kids, I'm always saying, Father, Holy Spirit, guide them in all truth. It's very important, because I'm not going to be there with them 24/7. And so when they come to situations whereby they are conflicted and they can't get mommy, they can't get daddy, or I can't even help them, the Holy Spirit is there to guide in all truth. So we need to begin to build if we say we are truly Christians and we want liberation in this sexual arena, we need to go to the master who created it. He is the one who designed this thing we're talking about. And so we need to get his insight. We need to get his knowledge. If you need to take, classes, there are Christian sexual classes that they're offering at different spots, different places. If you need to begin to build your spiritual man to say, okay, God, what do you want for my relationship? Because you created this thing. I need to know your manual for this thing. I need to be able to make myself whole, make my spouse whole. How do I go about this? I believe one of the major ways is to get help spiritually. And I'm not saying it as a Christianese way. I'm saying it as truly God created sex. God created this for marriage. Seek his advice, seek his insight before we start digressing to so many other areas. That's my take.
Thank you. Fantastic. Fantastic. Thanks for hanging in there.
I tried. As an IT person, you got to go for all the laptops. You keep trying everything till you get it. I don't know what it was, but I'm so sorry.
No, no problem. No problem. So I think, we're as we round up, we're just talking about, how, and if you can give us your perspective as a man, how can a man maintain a healthy mental mind when it comes to sex, in his body, his appetite, everything, just to hear your thoughts from a male perspective.
From a male perspective, I think for starters, staying in tune and connected to God, being real is I think number one. Because guess what? I didn't invent sex. I didn't invent marriage. So I need to go to the origin of where this thing came from and get an understanding of it. That's part one. I have to be open-minded. And then you see, I guess from experience for me, when I say experience, please don't read it the wrong way. Like maybe there's a truckload of stuff going on. But at least for men, for me, health-wise, the more you focus on your spouse and make that your I don't want to call it task or assignment, the better for you mentally and health-wise for the relationship and for intimacy. There's always going to be distractions. The more the distractions, the more you get. For some reason, I'm just telling you a fact. The more the distractions, the more you disconnect from your spouse or your partner. So if you are intentional about it, it helps. There's a reason why God created women to be beautiful. There's a reason why God created men to always be able to identify or see. But it's not for that person to lock into one zone and just make that zone the one that works for them. You understand what I'm saying? It's now on that man too. I know we're about to run out of time. It's now on that man's responsibility that when you're picking your spouse, you pick carefully, you take your time. Don't get caught up by just the bells and the frizzles and all that stuff. Make sure you might not get the entire package. Most likely you're not going to get the entire package. Get as close as possible to the entire package. Don't go for someone just because of this. Don't go for a partner because you want her to be a trophy wife. Don't go for a partner because you want her to just take care of the house. Go for the total package. Get to be able to check off marks, whether it's making sure that when it comes to this woman, she checks off about 70% on each of the areas that matter, not one area. If one man is marrying a woman based on one area, he's already coming from behind. He's coming from behind in the game. He can't win the game, period. That's just it. It's not going to work. Sorry, I'm running my mouth.
No. Oh, no.
But every man, I must tell every man here, be open-minded when it comes to your relationship, when it comes to intimacy. You have to be open-minded. This thing is supposed to be a partnership. It's not about one person satisfying the other person. Both parties are supposed to satisfy each other. How you satisfy each other is how you decide based on knowing each other and working with each other. Last I checked, I'm not a Bible scholar, but in the Bible, it just said that the guy knew his wife. Whatever that means, it means he took time to. He didn't say that Eve knew her husband. He said Adam knew Eve. So I'm just saying, I'm not trying to bust any bubbles.
Did you talk to my husband because he used that yesterday?
I'm telling you, that's what it is. But we don't. Unfortunately, we have not been taught right. We're bringing culture into play. We're bringing what we learned in high school from our friends, something that they picked up and all that stuff into the relationship. I think that's what's supposed to work. No, if you go to the original plan, it will work, and I dare say it turns out to be far better than anything else. But again, I'm speaking from a point of view of having to learn over the years, that this is the way it's supposed to work. Because hey, you got to know the woman. And I
think that is such a yes, Lola, please.
Sorry, I also wanted to add to what Olu said is that focus first on the intimacy, and I feel like the sex will flow into that. And that's part of knowing, be observant. Don't ignore your spouse all day and everything and think that, okay, now it's time. Let me reach over and press something. And then that's supposed to activate something, like be observant of each other's moods. Care about how the other one is feeling. And focus on the intimacy part. And then that other part will flow naturally, I feel.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mika. Before we go, I just have one mandate for all the married couples watching right now or watching later. Please go have sex. Like today, after this show, please go have sex.
Thank you.
They better.
And know your spouse.
No. Yes.
No
S&M. No S&M. No,
I think this was just, God's way of just helping us round it up, to be honest with you. Each time on the show, we're very particular. We're always very careful. This was one show that we wanted to be super, super careful because we realized, first, it's very sensitive. Second, we didn't want to, lord anything over anybody else. And I think, just even the way, we didn't expect to, we're able to have, Olu join us and really bring that male perspective and brought truth, really rounded everything up. And the way you said it and the way, I think you said it to men and Lola interpreted it as well to women is, it's the ability for marriage is about knowing. Let's build intimacy, like you said, and then you put the leadership on the men that Adam knew his wife. The Bible says, husbands, dwell with your wives with understanding. Know them, know what makes them happy, know what makes them tick. Build that intimacy. And the woman too should respond to her husband, and for there to be open, honest communication. And where there's a challenge, reach out for help. If you have a challenge personally, like Tosi said, there's help for us as Christians. If we have a challenge as a couple, really enjoying it, being creative, reach out to professionals. There's nothing wrong. The Bible says in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. This has been an amazing show. Thank you to all the guys. We had some of our docs online. We had another one of our a lot of the guys engaged. Thank you to all the men who joined. Thank you to Olu. We missed our other two fantastic ladies, Jumoke and Feyi, who couldn't be here. But we're really happy. We're going to go on a break, FOTW. We're going to take a brief summer break where we enjoy ourselves a bit, and we'll be back on August 14th with some brand new live shows. Today's show has taken it up a notch, so I'm expecting we'll have more impromptu audiences, more guests that would lend their voice in. So today, Olu joined us to add his own. I see Kule say Agent Zero. And it's really good to have everyone here. Until we come again next time, we want everyone to have a fantastic summer. Enjoy life, live, love, happiness. We're all about relationships. Let's take this time out to build those relationships with our family. Like Tutu said, married couples, enjoy yourselves. Even if you're not married, enjoy intimacy with friends, with family. And we believe that when we come back on August 14th, we'll have another exciting continuation of our season 2 episodes.
And you would have had sex.
Lots of it. Plenty of it.
All right. Olu, you did a great job. You're like, all right, ladies. Thank you, everybody. God bless. See you soon on my take. Look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.